Data shows Hispanic Americans in Tyler play a crucial role in our city's labor force, population growth, and the economy. KLTV7's Christine Guevara breaks down that report and what this means for the future of Hispanic Americans in the Rose City.
The American Immigration Council, along with the Tyler Hispanic Business Alliance, or HBA, provided data from internal research and the city's 2012 to 2021 censuses that depicts a new outlook of the Tyler metro area. One key point is Hispanic population growth, going from almost 39,000 in 2012 to 49,000 in 2021, increasing by 26.4%. And out of that, nearly 24,000 Hispanic Americans are active in the labor force, making up 21.2% of the city's labor force.
And they are contributing in a huge way to the economy and the workforce, especially with it being nearly a quarter of the entire labor force that's active there in Tyler being of Hispanic origins.
Nancy Rangel with the Tyler HBA says many Hispanics were able to meet that need as individuals took on more bilingual jobs.
So that they can not only learn about their products and services, but be able to sell that to customers or clients that may come into these organizations, companies, and corporations.
Another key point is Hispanic households earned more than $800 million in income in 2021, contributing millions to federal, state, and local taxes, and left $637 million in spending power. Rangel says this growth would not be possible without community support.
A lot of our community that embraces the Hispanic community and is able to support them just like they support the Tyler HBA, so that we are also part of the community, because we all want to see a better city of Tyler, a better county, and a better region overall.
But with understanding this data and what this means looking forward, experts say it gives city leaders the ability to attract more people to the area.
Being able to make sure that they're integrating the different populations that are in the city, making sure that everyone feels welcome and understands the opportunities that are available.
Christine Guevara, KLTV 7 News.
And data also shows Hispanic Americans hold substantial voting power, with nearly 19,000 Hispanic voters in 2021, including 2,800 naturalized citizens.